welcome to Cosmic Connections. I'm Starlene Breiter, and today I'm here joined by Barbie. Barbie is a certified astrologer. She's a vibrational astrologer and the founder of IrisSkies Alternative Holistic Medicine. So Barbie blends the two. She blends her healing practice with iridology and aromatherapy, flower essence, and astrology. So it's going to be interesting to talk to her and see what she has to share with us today. She is also speaking at the Fractal Cosmos Conference, doing a workshop called Exploring the Basics of Vibrational Astrology, of the Vibrational Astrology chart. So it'll be really interesting to talk with her and get to know her. Thank you so much for joining me today, Barbie. How are you doing?
Thank you, Starlene. I'm actually, excited. You're my first podcast.
I love it.
I've been out there and I've done a lot, but this is, get this behind my belt now. This would be great.
Oh, that's awesome. So, okay, I have a ton of questions for you because I'm a very curious person. But before we get started into my questions, I'm curious, what started you on the path of astrology? I like to ask everyone that because it's always a cool story.
Well, it is always a cool story. And the story goes back to 2015. And I was living in Bend, Oregon. And I was going to college at American College of Healthcare Science and online out of Portland, Oregon. And during my studies of integrated medicine and aromatherapy and iridology, I fell across medical astrology. So there lies how I began. And then I came across, I needed software, and being on that side of the, states on the West Coast, there's an astrologer, if you've heard of him, Henry Seltzer. He has Time Passages, a program called Time Passages. He's written books. I think his latest was Eris. But anyhow, he said, if you wanted to become a medical astrologer, you need to get a diploma. You should go through. So I ended up doing that because I am a Capricorn, and the chart ruler of my chart is Saturn, soul depositor. And so what did I do? I went straight to I looked online and I found a school out of Ohio, International Academy of Astrology, and 4.5 years later, got my diploma, and that's how it all began.
Wow, that's really great. So you studied astrology professionally before you even started with vibrational astrology.
Okay. So I studied before that. And so, in vibration astrology, you learn in the conference, there's vibrations, and everyone has vibrations that they vibrate, and they actually have a few that they vibrate at. And I happen to be the 11 vibration, and it's progressively, restlessly, and pushing, wants to get out there and do more. And so that's me. So during my studies of long-term studies, a 4-year diploma, I stumbled across Linda Berry, vibrational astrology. I studied across Judith Hill, medical astrology. And I've taken some other, just little other people's courses in just astrology, just whatever I could. I was absorbing it, right? And Linda, I said, oh, look at this 101. You just take a little bit of vibration. It'd be one class, and you'd be done in 12 weeks. Well, it wasn't like that. You met people in there. And you just become a community together. And it just kept on growing and going. And I've been with Linda since, and that was in 2022, 23, by end of fall of 22. And then I studied 23 and 24 with her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you write is it a daily thing that you put on social media, or?
Well, I do that, but I have to say that I live in Texas, and I live in the country in Texas. I don't live far from Austin, Texas, which is more a field and an area that is more into the holistic, the area I'm out, I just happen to love to be out in the country because I have horses as well. So you can either live in the city and enjoy some of the mystics of what you want to be doing or holistic stuff that you'd like to be doing, or you can be out in the country, which, as I will mention to you, I have that 12th house. Well, my plan is kind of like to hide in that 12th house and be secluded. And that's kind of how I feel. And I like being out here. So as far as that, I don't know, here I am, and I'm putting out that it doesn't go so well or get so far out because they'd rather see me on a horse. I see that my followers that follow me, if I put out something with Sagittarius and I put my horse out there, I'll get more likes on the horse. And if I put out something with a cat on a Leo day, 3 people. Yeah, so that's it.
A similar thing happened to me because I was selling crystals for many years before I even started astrology school. I always loved astrology, but I gathered like a bunch of crystal and natural healing people. And then I started doing astrology, and it was like, people were like, wait, what? Because I kind of switched myself, but that was my own doing. I used to make jewelry and stuff. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, but you know, that's kind of good. I thought about this for my own self, but it's kind of good because you're exposing people that maybe wouldn't hear about it otherwise, you know? So maybe it's a good thing, you know?
It is a good thing, you know, and there is this, okay, I also go to a cowboy church on Sundays. Yeah, you know, what a twist, right? So, but you'll see in charts that as an astrologer yourself, or anyone out there who's an astrologer, you can have a judge by day and a tarot reader by night.
Yeah.
You know, you see what I'm saying? You could be sitting in a courtroom and be a judge, and at night he's a tarot reader, or he or she, right? So there lies. I have my flip side. I go to my Christianity, my roots, and that's my roots. And I go a little bit of Jesus on Sunday, but don't ever go in there and talk about even a star that might be, you know, conjunct the moon or kissing the moon or you know, or there's some stars that are all lined up, because unless it's going to be over Bethlehem, it ain't something they want to hear.
Right. And that's the thing too. I know some people that are like both, they have that double live type thing going on. I say that kind of and lightly because it's not literally a double life, but they have their religious part of them, and then they have their, you know, their astrologers or whatnot. But you know, what always comes up to me is that the 3 wise men in the Bible were astrologers, right? So it's like there is something there. I don't know. I'm not a like.
No, you're absolutely right, Starlene. Because actually, Luke Bailey, he has the school now, the International Academy of Astrology, and he also has Astro College. And that's one of his biggest things. He even did a video on it, a little YouTube, about that's how astrologers really were. They were, those 3 wise men had to be astrologers to follow stars.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's so interesting. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating story, and how you're tying it together and what you're doing in your life, you know, in addition to being an astrologer. So that's very cool. You also work with animals and more horses, or
I work with horses. I can work with canine and feline. You know, I do have an anatomy. You need anatomy and physiology for these animals, just like you need for the human, because I have that as well for the human. But I work with equine iridology the most, for I have a connection with, not only am I certified in the United States, I got certified in UK under Kathleen Edwards Academy. And there I met into a group of others that we meet the first Thursday of every month, and we meet from Australia, Netherlands, UK, and we study eyes of the horse and iridology. So it goes deeper, and I get the richness of other countries and what they see.
Interesting. Yeah. We are, as Americans, we have very narrow.
We're very narrow, and what we can do here, what we cannot do here, they can do there. You know, it's like, so with equine, there's supplements and there's herbs and there's aromatherapy. Even with any animal or human, you can use these right protocols. But here in the States, you have to be very careful. We never diagnose. We're not even diagnose. We don't use that word. What we do is we look over and see what we can see. And then if we do advise, if we see something, to go to the vet, or if it's a human, to see a doctor. And most 99% is spot on what you can see. So it's you need to work with a veterinarian to be able to get the public to understand what you're doing, because and anyone that would say that I can look at your eyes and I can see the health of your body, they would go, okay, what are you? First of all, show me your degree. Where did you get your degree? What kind of license do you have? Right. And so, and as like astrology is the same way. You don't have a license. You don't need a license for astrology. Right. But you need to have education, and a good education. I mean, some astrologers can, those Geminis and, Virgos, we know who they are. They can absorb it and get it right out. And they can finish a diploma in 2 years sometimes, right? But they do need formal education. Don't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, even when I started in Avalon, because I went to Avalon, prior to going, I had the Kepler program. It was like the one before Sirius and from Cosmic Patterns. And I was using that from like 2006, because I was like, if I'm going to do this for real, I need to like really have good software. So I went on a, wild goose hunt, and I found Kepler, and I was like, okay, this is the best one. And I was like, it's kind of for where I was at the moment. It was a lot, but I was like, I want to be good at this, so I need good tools. So I'm like, okay, I'm also a business person, so I get it. And so I get that, and I'm going through the whole program. They have the school, the Avalon school in there, which is not going into vibrations, but there's a little bit of it at the end. But I went through that like 3 times, and then school opened up. They had a public school, an in-person school in Gainesville, but I live like in South Florida, so going 5 hours to school wasn't an option for me, and so I just ended up waiting for them to go online, and they did, and I was in their first class online. So, but it was like, I thought I knew a lot, even going through the stuff in the program, and I'm like, oh wow, I know nothing. Like getting into school, I was like, I feel like I know nothing, although I did. It's still, you just don't realize like there's so much to learn. And I took that course twice. Like I sat in on the second time that they did that course online, because, I had stuff going on that I felt like it was helpful for me, and I learned stuff each time. So I don't think you ever stop learning, when you're learning about astrology. So
no, you're absolutely right, Starlene. You never stop learning. And I've been told by astrologers, that been in the career for 40 years or more, that it takes the astrologer to become an astrologer 12 years.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you think about it, that's Jupiter, right? And it's that
makes sense. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I always thought the older astrologers were wise. Always, even when I was young, because when I was in my teens, I was reading like the columns in the newspaper and things like that. Like I was just like, oh, this is interesting, but I didn't know much really. And then I started reading like sun sign astrology books, and we're still not learning, but like not really knowing. But those are like levels you get to. And VA is like, to me, it's the evidence-based approach. I think that is, more people need to know about that. That's my personal opinion. I think more people need to know about that. And I think that it should be in schools, but obviously it's not. So we're just, we're doing what we can do. Like you said, education is so important. So
education is important. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been studying for a long time. That's great. And your lecture is the exploring the basics of vibrational astrology without giving away too much. Can you tell us about what you're going to share with us at that lecture?
Well, okay, I can share some pieces. I'll give you a little tasting. I won't go too much farther into it, But it's going to begin with a kind of a rich history of how VA, came about, right? And of course, you got to know where it came from, and and how it developed over the course of centuries, right? And then to now, where it's at. And then we'll go into just some of the basics, because because the other speakers are going to get into some things that are very deep, right? And so, how did this all develop? What is a circuit? What are the orbs? The orbs are quite different, right? And we have circuits, red circuits, green circuits, and then we have a brown color, right? When we have a quincunx. And then so simply going over that and going over the language itself, it's a little twisted, and kind of sets some of the Western astrologers like, whoa, where are we at? What are we writing here? Am I writing English or Western or bareback? And in VA, I see it being more bareback, because it's just clean. There's nothing dressed on the horse. That's how I, can put it, right, in my language. Unless you're doing compatibility, we're not going to look at the signs, really, right?
Right.
And so it's very clean. So we're going to give a little bit. I'm going to give a little tasting of how the planets work together. First singly, then together, and then go on a little bit into maybe a midpoint and show how that is. And then isotraps, and then kind of wrap it up a little bit, and then show a chart and go through it and how it worked. The whole from the beginning. We're going to get the vibrations, and not to leave out the famous Linda Berry, who has Frequency Finder, and which I love. I mean, because going through her class, I don't know about you going through your class, Avion. We did the modulus, and we didn't have the Frequency Finder, or I didn't get it at first. And so you had to break down, the number, and have the modulus and break down the numbers, and then get, and then write your sentence or your paragraph out of what it is, right? Are you with me, or am I on this trail alone here?
No, I got you. I'm with you.
And so, but in the basics, I'm not going to get you that lost down the trail. I'm just going to kind of just give you a tasting of how it is. Because there's wonderful study books that David and Linda and Faye and others, and you, Starlene, have put together, and that the consumer needs that, what was interested in VA should purchase. Even though it's a changing, evolving, always have your foundation. Always keep that book, the foundation, because you want to know where it came from. Because what if you could take that, and you could take that vibration and find something different and add something to it, right?
Right. I love that you're taking it from the history somewhat to give, to shed light into like how this happened, because you're right. With VA, the wording, I mean, we say the same planets, but we don't always say the same meaning, because if you're talking to just a modern astrologer or Hellenistic astrologer, they're going to look at it differently. And there's not one is better than the other. They're just different. And so, being able to explain those basic building blocks are so important and so helpful. So anybody that is new or wanting to learn should go to your workshop so they can learn the basics, because I think that will help put things together in other conversations and lectures and workshops that are going on. So that'll be
great. Just here, I'm an instructor for International Astrology Academy under Luke Bailey, and we do Astrodice every fortnightly. That's how they say it in Australia, fortnightly, but it's bi-weekly here in the US. And it's on a Friday, but also after that, we have a delineation, and you can delineate charts. And just this past Friday, Courtney Yates from Survivor, who is an astrologer, she did another Survivor's chart, and she delineated it. And Christian Mama, she was called Christian Mama, because she's got this big moon placement, but she's also was very Christian, and now she has a podcast on anti-Christian or something, but I'm not really sure about that. But it's anyhow, during her delineation, I sat back and I quickly did a VA on her, You know, and because that's 11, and anybody who comes will figure out what 11 is, but you have to come to Fractal Conference and listen to the intro and understand what 11 vibration is. But it's gets out there and pushes. I did that while watching that at the same time, because that's what 11 can do. And and I ended up pulling up her vibrations and and I had a quick little presentation to give. And what I'm getting to around to all of this, what they had done in Western, I came back to the same per vibrations in VA. So it was read the same, but in different languages.
Yeah, that does
rich,
happen.
That is rich. That is like, you know, but it gives it much more understanding. So someone might not understand where planetaries. Well, your moon is even saying conjunct to someone. They go, what does conjunct mean? Like, is it junk or junked? You know, they don't understand what that means. I always like to say, if it's a close, very, you know, planets together, they're kissing. You know what that is? Skin on skin. It's kissing. And if it's a little looser, I say holding hands. You know, just like if you just loosely, you know. And if it's loose conjunction, then it's loosely holding hands, so they can understand the feeling it would be, you know.
Yeah,
So I like to use some, you know, more layperson language, and when speaking to someone. And so with VA, it makes it a little bit easy because you don't need to go in so much into the zodiac signs, right? And then give interpretation.
Right. It's so direct, like with what I find if I use modern traditional astrology, even I start going through it, it's like a story unpacks, if you will. And it kind of like, that's where I go. But if I use VA and I'm just looking at the energy process, I'm like, it's so direct. And they're like, yeah, how'd you know? It's like, I don't know, it's in your chart. It's just, but it seems like it just lasers in. That's the way I like to describe it. I mean, I think both are really useful and helpful for different contexts, but you know, that laser focus at VA it gets you, you know, because it's like, oh, wow, it's like you really understand it. So that's why I think, because I teach VA too. So when, you know, someone is like understanding it, and like, if you just want to get to the heart of the issue, that VA is very helpful to like get you there, you know. So everything else kind of like you're going around in a circle to try to make the story together, if that makes sense. So
no, absolutely. And today, one of my clients, she emailed me and she goes, I'm out of my forecast. I need 3 more months for my forecasting, you know? And, so it's nice. And the VA, I have to say, has been more of a hit than the Western, you know, because there's so many apps out there today.
Yeah. You can find us everywhere.
And the thing with that is people don't really understand, or maybe they feel they have understanding, or maybe that just fits them for the time, because to get down to the roots and learn and know.
Yeah,
it's way more. It's way different.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just touch a wand and and say, oh, bing, I got it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. It's an unfolding that happens over time. And that's going back to what you said about like taking time to actually get, but I think I was saying this earlier, but I didn't finish my thought, was that I always thought when I was younger, like the older astrologers, which, you know, like people that have the history of living through those aspects and things, knowing what a Saturn return is like, knowing what a Uranus opposition is like, you know, knowing what a Chiron return is like, you know, all these things that don't happen except when you get a little older, and then you can have experience with them. I always thought that's cool, because they have that wisdom of knowing, not just like of the mind of like, oh, I know what that means by the book, it says it right here. And it's like, no, I know what that means because I lived it and I saw this person and this person live it, and okay, I get it now, you know. But that's what helps us. I mean, we can do that in hindsight and reflect back if we already passed, you know, what was going on in our chart at a certain time, like looking back at our Saturn return. If we weren't into astrology until after that, we can piece it together too. But that wisdom of age, like helping you to see things a little bit deeper, is, I think, really really helpful in this context, because you have the wisdom of knowing too. So
right, absolutely. And so what that brings up is evidence-based, right?
Yes.
So you can have that evidence base, so you can forecast forward and help.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, yeah. And so that's where we're at. And VA does a wonderful, I mean, David Cochran has the bipolar book. And then there's also been some other at the conference, which I didn't go, sadly, but I didn't get there to the conference. Hopefully this coming year, right? 2026, 2020. Yeah, we're going to have another one in 2026. But anyhow, there's been someone spoke on heart, right? On the heart and something else. You know.
Yes. I believe it was breast cancer was one, and heart disease. I think it was heart disease or heart attacks. It was a few years ago. I don't remember the exact details, but those were both researched.
Yeah, that is amazing, right? So that's something that, but really interesting is with iridology, with the eye for humans, human, there is a where you can have the picture of the eye with the eyes. I can see in the eye, and I can see when looking at the chart where this is coming out.
Oh,
yeah,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, there is more to what you can see within the eye and what you can see on a chart. So, but that's another thing, takes time to do evidence-based, and that's what it's all about. It's not to say, oh, I'm a weekend warrior or I'm a monthly warrior or whatever, I found this. It would take 6 months to a year just to even put that all together and to see how that works, right?
Yeah, you have to have the desire to want to learn it, because otherwise you'll just get pieces and it won't work that way. Yeah, so that's why this kind of conference is so good, because it's giving opportunity to see the different parts of it and how we put it together. So I love that, and I love that Linda and whoever else decided to organize the conference did it where there were foundational tracks like the one that you're doing, and then there was other different things, like I'm doing a presentation on fixed stars, so, and that's totally different. They're just different than the planets, but it's cool that there's a little mix of everything in there, so I'm really excited about the conference. So to wrap this up a little, I just want to ask you, so for someone that's attending your session, what is one practical takeaway that you would like to give them so that they can take home and kind of play with it in their chart?
Oh, so one takeaway to take home for some of the charts. Well, there's really not the takeaway. I would say if somebody's looking at their own chart, they actually, are they an astrologer, or they're just a client, or just anyone that just can pull up a chart and look at it, right? What is the takeaway?
Yeah.
Okay, where are you drawn to? Where are you drawn to in your chart? Where does that go? So if you take your chart and you look and you see these, and if you're an astrologer, you would know that there's planets and zodiac signs all on the eastern or western or southern or northern. Are they clumped in? Where? What section are they clumped in? Right? What quadrant? And so from there, you can kind of get like, hey, wait, for is everything on one half of the chart, or one? So where are you drawn to? And or even if it's a little like a splay chart all over, where do you go first?
Yeah.
What do you want to look at? And then from there, know that is something you're drawn to, right? Okay. And then the others, it's just like going to a buffet, which I don't recommend. I'm a holistic health practitioner, but those who go to buffets, there's a lot of them that do that. What are you drawn to when you walk through all the salads, all the greenery? What are you drawn to? The same thing with your chart.
That's a great idea, and that's helpful too, to give the wisdom for people to think about when after your presentation. So. Wow. Well, thank you so much. People can find you on your website, IrisSkies. I'll make sure that there's links in the description box as well. Is there any other place that people can find you online or anything?
No, IrisSkies. I mean, I have my Facebook content at IrisSkies, there as well. I do have an Instagram. As far as the social media, I have to keep up with that. And
Yeah.
as you know, you're juggling a lot as you go. I mean,
Yeah.
you try to look at horse's eyes, cat's eyes, dog's eyes, human eyes. And then when you look at VA and Western astrology and tutoring, I do tutor as well, VA. So someone out there, needs some tutoring in VA or even Western astrology. And then in the fall, I'll be doing, I teach astronomy in other bodies at IAA. So I don't know how, might be thrown into that loop. So there's a lot going on.
Wow, that's really fascinating. That's exciting. So your main thing is like they can find information from you.
Yeah, they might find the information, go there and, drop me a line. If you can't get into, for whatever reason, you're trying to get on the calendar and it's not working, email, text me, yeah, get a hold of me.
Yeah.
You'll find me,
Awesome.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to the fixed stars in the conference.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. See, when we said, what are we drawn to in the conference? When I looked up at the lineup, the stars drew me.
Yeah, so, I've been studying them for some time, but I won't go too far into it. But I've presented Regulus, and this one will have another star. But I'm also going to explain how they're different and more. I kind of like how you're doing in your presentation with like, hey, this is the history. Well, I'm kind of doing that, but just with the fixed stars. So I think that's a good opener for people that don't understand how they're different, astronomically and astrologically, how they're different. So
exactly,
it's fascinating. I'm telling you, I could talk about this stuff forever. It's something absolutely. I feel tons of passion for. So yeah.
Yeah, the stars. Yeah, the stars are the limit, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Barbie. It was really great to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing you at the conference. And thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you so much. I look forward to watching you and your presentation. Of course, everyone else's lineup, but everybody has their favorite they're looking for. Like I said, when you go to the chart, where are you going to look? That's where you're going to go for, right? You might even be looking for stars next time.
Hey, you never know.
Never know. Well, thank you, Starlene.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning into Cosmic Connections. I hope you enjoyed this conversation from the Fractal Cosmos Conference interviews. If you're craving an in-person experience where you can truly connect, explore, and go deep into evidence-based astrology together, you can join us next spring in Nashville, Tennessee for the Cosmic Discovery Conference, hosted by the Cosmobiology Institute. I'll be there, and so will many of the voices you've heard me interviewing for the Fractal Cosmos Conference.